How's everyone doing?
Good.
I wish you a very good morning as well. Here we go. Just as a heads up, there will be some sensitive material we talk about today. We're going to dive right in. Don't worry, you're not alone. I'll be guiding us. I'll be our tour guide through it. A few stories will help us. But let's start out from a very big picture. Let's talk about life, shall we? Let's talk about life? Very good. Okay, life. Life is filled with some amazing, amazing things. Your favorite meal, just say it out loud. Favorite meal. Pizza, ribeye steak, yes. What else? Oh my gosh, yes. Sushi, yes. How about over here, section D? What do you got? Lasagna, nice. There we go. And how about here? Mac and cheese, very good. Your favorite place in the entire world. It could be somewhere at your house or somewhere around the world. Where's it at? Disneyland? In something Grove. Richardson's Grove. Thrive, someone said. Let's give it up for here. Yeah, nice. Nice. Where else? Where's kind of like an ordinary spot to everybody else, but for you, it's a really, really big deal. How about there? Where is it? Your bed, yes. We good? Are we good? Okay. That really threw me off. So favorite place, favorite food, favorite present you've ever received, ever in your entire life. Salvation, well done, yes? A car, a bicycle, what color was that bike? A green bicycle. How old were you when you got it? 16 years old. A racer? That is awesome. So life is filled with some amazing things. For some it's this big and it's flashy, this is impressive. For some it's just kind of the ordinary things. But I would say first off, to show you a picture of Bella when she was about 9 years old, life is amazing. And sometimes life feels like this, right? But not always. Sometimes life feels like this, and this is Lucy. Go to the next picture, right here. She's okay, don't worry, she's just fine. This was several years ago, she's just fine. Life is amazing, but not always. Not always. This is actually the same picture. If we can just kind of zoom out and we can see, this picture to me beautifully captures life. And this is one of those perfect Instagram moments where we caught it at the exact right time. I was there at the bottom of the hill, and Bella said, "Daddy, I'm going to run down the hill." I said, "Great." And she comes running down, and Lucy behind here, she tried. And we find that it doesn't always go the way that we plan, right? Life can be amazing right here in the forefront and the background, but not always. Not always. In fact, sometimes the ups and downs of life can be really, really challenging. Life is hard. Anybody want to join me in that? Life's hard. It's hard. I mean, when you're 16, it's hard. When you're 45, it's hard. When you're retired, it's hard. When you're 7, it's hard. Life is hard. We're going through it for the first time, I think, right? We're all just trying to figure it out along the way, right? This is the first time I've ever been 39 years old, ever, I think, right? I'm trying to figure it out just like you. Life is hard. There's ups and there's downs, and we all have limitations. We all have kind of a breaking point where things can happen. I speak today not just from a guest preacher perspective, but I speak today from the hat that I wear Monday through Friday, which many of you know, but for those that don't, I'm a therapist throughout the week. So I work as a mental health clinician throughout the week. So I have a private practice in Sacramento and in Rockland, and I meet with families, I meet with teenagers, I meet with adults, meet with them there. And I'm also a part of an amazing nonprofit organization. I'm in executive leadership, and we place therapists into schools to help kids there in schools all across the state. So from like above Auburn all the way down to San Diego. And it is a gift that we get to be able to provide clinical therapists in a school setting on campus free of charge to the students and to the families to help out the school counselors, school psychologists that are there. So I help oversee those people. So throughout the week, I'm kind of in mental health psychology world. So I speak today from that angle as we begin to kind of answer the question, what would Jesus say to mental health? And I want to acknowledge out from the get-go, the audacity for me to say, well, this is what he would tell you is kind of ridiculous. because I don't want to speak for him. We don't see the words mental health come out of the mouth of Jesus in Scripture. There's no red letters that say that necessarily. But there's some core principles. There's one core principle that we'll hit kind of towards the end as we talk a little bit of the nuts and bolts about mental health. My first introduction to mental health happened back in the 1900s when I was in high school. Maybe you were there at the same time I was. And there's a friend that I knew, his name was Jake, and Jake was a junior. And Jake was one of those like school friends. And if you're still in school or you're not, you can remember being in school. You remember that you had like school friends and you had like friends, like the ones you hung out with outside of school, right? Well, Jake was one of those school friends. And at one point in time, he was there in the cafeteria and he was eating a bag of chips. But he wasn't touching any of the chips. He was using the bag kind of as a way to work the chip up and then put it into his mouth. So me and my friends took notice because high school guys aren't always the most kind. And we're like, Jake, what are you doing, man? He goes, I'm eating my chips. And we're like, why don't you just get it out of the bag? And he said, because I have OCD. Now let me pause right there. OCD, first of all, stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a part of an anxiety disorder or a mental illness within kind of the dictionary of mental illnesses called the DSM-5, obsessive compulsive disorder. You may have heard that, and it gets thrown around kind of in everyday language, like, oh, they're really OCD. Something that says like, they're really neat, they're really tidy, they like things in a certain way. This wasn't like that for Jake. This was a bit more serious. So at the time, I had that understanding that like, oh, Jake's he doesn't want to get Cool Ranch dust on his fingers. I totally get it, right? Because then you can't lick afterwards, and then, you gotta, right? So we were kind of like, okay, whatever, fine, that's weird, Jake's being Jake. And that was it, went on with the rest of our year. It was this one time I went into the restroom during school. And I walk in one door over here, and there's one door over here, and the sinks are right here. And Jake is facing this door right here, and he has his foot up. And he's trying to like get the door open, because there's a handle like this, trying to get it open. And I come in, he didn't hear me come in. I come in through this door and I see him just like kind of kicking and like panting. I was like, Jake, what are you doing, man? He said, I can't. I was like, what? And he was like, I just can't. And it's like his lips starting to quiver a little bit. He's like, I just can't. I can't open the door. And in my mind, maybe your mind, you're thinking like, well, just grab the door, just walk out. Like, what's the big deal? Jake said, I've been in here by myself for like 10 minutes because no one's been in here. And each time I go to try and grab the door handle, I have to go wash my hands. I've washed them 8 times in the last 10 minutes. And you see his hands, and they're kind of like cracking. He has blisters on his hands. And he looks helpless. And he's starting to cry. And it was then that I was like, oh, this is something that is impacting his day-to-day life. Now we hear that story and it's like, well, how did that happen? Why did that happen to Jake? Looking back, I can give maybe a little bit of insight on why sometimes our brains, our bodies, our thought patterns begin to develop to where it impacts even day-to-day life, even something as simple as walking out of the bathroom or as eating chips. See, research is telling us that the odds of having mental health challenges, which by the way, we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. Just like we all have spiritual health. We all have it. Some of us were physically healthier when we were in high school. Some of us were physically healthier when we were parents and we were active. Some of us maybe we're in great physical health right now because those 2019 resolutions, we're sticking to it. It's June and we're still going. Right? So we all have mental health just like we have physical health and spiritual health. So we all have that. And sometimes there's challenges. And sometimes some of the reasons for that is because what happens when we're growing up at home. Researchers tell us that there's things called ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experiences. ACEs. When we have 1, 2, 3, 4, or more ACEs between 0 and 18, this can make us more prone to chronic diseases. It can even take up to 20 years off of our lifespan. Now, what are some of these adverse childhood experiences? Well, one of them is divorce. One of them is neglect. One of them is physical, sexual, verbal abuse. One of them is living with a caregiver that has a mental illness. One of them is maybe one of your caregivers is immediately taken out of the home. Maybe it's due to incarceration or deportation. One of those is living with a caregiver or an environment where there is addiction or substance abuse that's happening. So all these things kind of compounded, and for Jake, he had quite a few of those. He wasn't doing well in school. He wasn't playing much on the basketball team. He was stressed. He began to turn to drugs from some of the hard things he saw happening at home. His parents were going through a divorce. He would see on a regular basis mom fight with dad, and dad even fight with him. And sometimes I get to hear these kinds of stories with teenagers in my office. And I think to myself, not that I'm condoning any of this behavior, but I think to myself, if I was walking through some of those kinds of situations, I would want to escape reality for a couple hours too. I would want to leave what's happening around me because of how awful it might be. So Jake had a lot of these things. So for some of the why behind mental health, some of it, it's our external environment, it's our circumstances. For some people, when there's a death to someone that happens very close to us, it impacts us in a very, very heavy way. Others, it might be physiological. Just like for some, maybe they're more predisposed to diabetes because of some imbalances in their is it endocrine system? Is that the one? Guts, somewhere in here, right? Some of us, maybe there's some imbalances there. Same thing with the neurotransmitters in our brain. For some, it's genetic. But we all have a stress ceiling. Zooming way out, we all have a stress ceiling. We all have a breaking point. If you're parents, you know what I mean. There comes a point sometimes, and it's happening pretty quickly here in summer, when it's like, can we just cool it on the mom can't I, dad will you, mom will you, why can't I, this kind of thing, right? Maybe you oversee employees at your job. And if that guy sends another reply all email again to everyone, you're just going to snap, right? We all have a breaking point. We all have a stress ceiling. In Thrive Family, our brains are simply not designed by God to handle all the brokenness in this world. It's just too hard to cope sometimes. It's just way too hard to cope sometimes. And isn't any fault of God, like, oh, he didn't make these brains good enough. It's the brokenness of this world. So sometimes what happens around us can really affect what happens internally, whether it be at the neurotransmitter level or for our thinking. There's a few other factors that kind of are contributing to the decline in mental health, particularly for our students this morning. And if you're a note taker, you're about to love the next 10 minutes. It is going to be great. We have the 5 S's, and I have the 5 S's. Say S's. Say S's. That's good. That was just to wake us up. Like, why is he having us do that? Okay, so this is the 5 S's. This is what research would tell us. This is also what we would say that we're seeing inside schools and inside our offices of what is impacting our mental health, particularly our adolescents. The first one is sleeplessness. The first S is sleeplessness. We are sleeping less. Our students actually are sleeping, on average, below 6 hours a night. American Pediatrics Association says it's 9+ for healthy development. Sleeplessness is the first one. We're living in this time where I'm going to bed is somehow different than I'm going to sleep. I went to bed at 10, but I went to sleep at 12:30. Familiar with that? It's not just the kids that are doing that, us too, right? Are you familiar with that? I went to bed at this time, but really, Pinterest and Snapchat and Facebook and whatever else, then I went to sleep. And that's the second S. We're on screens a lot. Ironically, it comes up on a screen right here next to me, okay? We have more screen time, in fact, even more than authentic or meaningful connection with others. Students, it was a couple years ago, there was a survey, Common Sense Media put it out, 6 hours and 43 minutes of personal screen time a day for 8 to 16-year-olds. 6 hours and 43 minutes, Netflix, YouTube, Fortnite, Xbox, Hulu, 6 hours and 43 minutes. And let that soak in for just a little bit. Over 6 hours a day, okay? And before we get all high and mighty on like, yeah, those kids, those phones, adults were spending over 7.5 hours of personal screen time. That's beyond email, it's beyond work stuff. So they're seeing it from somewhere. We're contributing to this as well as adults. When Bella, who's now 11, sees Daddy at the stoplight, and I need to get the phone to see like what's happening with the latest trades or the draft that just happened with NBA, because I can't just sit there and do nothing, apparently. So she sees like, oh, well, there's no downtime in life. We have to be engaged and stimulated somehow, and that attention in the screen is monetized for companies to make billions and billions of dollars. Facebook isn't the enemy. Snapchat isn't the enemy. Phones aren't the enemy. That's not the deal. These next two is what really harms our mental health. It's solitary and sedentary lifestyle. It's the next two S's. It's not that the screen is bad. Is that when we're doing this or when we're doing this, we're not doing this. Before sin enters our story in Genesis 3, God says it's not good for us to be alone. Remember, he creates things over 6 days and says, and it was good, and it was good, and it was good. And there's one thing that comes before sin happens in our story. He said it's not good for us to be alone. This loneliness, even research is showing this, kills. It's more deadly than alcoholism or smoking. So it's the isolation. It's the being alone, and then particularly for our young people, for being sedentary, for being just inside. It takes a toll on our mental health. And so the last S, because who wants to feel that way? Oftentimes for students, they begin to self-medicate, even for adults, to self-medicate. Could be with substances, could be with activities, could be with relationships, because we want to avoid pain and seek pleasure. That's what our brains help us do. We want to get away from pain, and we want to get towards pleasure to make us feel better. So when we begin to feel more anxious, more depressed, more of an impact on our mental health, we want to try and find a way to feel better. These are the 5 S's. We can see how this is contributing to a decline in our mental health. Now, there might be 1 or 2 different kinds of people in the room this morning. One, where it's like, you're kind of giving me some language for myself. I've had my own challenges. I'm walking through some things right now, or I walked through some things in college, and this is kind of giving language to it. And there's maybe another group where it's like, I'm listening to this because I have someone that I care deeply about who's walking through their own mental health challenges. I just want to pause in the midst of all this. Is very kind of teaching heavy this morning. Not a lot of funny stories. Sorry. That both are welcome here in the conversation. Both are welcome here in this place. Both are welcome to the cross to surrender all of these burdens to Jesus. Both are welcome here. And it's okay. And for quite a bit of us here in the church, we don't talk about these things because they're pretty hard. I've had my own struggles with anxiety and depression in the past. And at times it has included medication. At times it has included therapy, weekly therapy. And that's okay. Sometimes life can be hard. And I'm not here to advocate for any particular method. What I'm here to show us is that Jesus can handle even these kinds of things. And us as a staff, us as leaders of this community, know that we want to be there with you, walking with you, whether it's with you personally or someone else that you might love. Okay? Continue on for the note takers. We're going to 3 happiness myths. These also, I think, are 3 things that are contributing to a decline in our mental health. These 3 myths can be very, very toxic for us. The first one is this. Happiness is the natural state of humans. You know those teachers that you had in school, maybe you have one right now, where they say, okay, everyone has an A+. Everyone has an A+, and it's up to you to keep it, because from then on, if you lose points, that's up to you, right? That's not how life works. You ever seen a baby, like the first moments when a baby's born? Anyone? There you go. They don't begin happy. For the non-mourning people in the room, you don't wake up happy, right? Happiness is not the normal state for us as people. And oftentimes we begin thinking that I should be happy, as I've said before, when we should all over ourselves, it gets really messy. I want to really enunciate that there, okay? Should is very near a word that's very toxic for us, and that is shame. We're shaming ourselves or somebody else. We should be happy. We should feel this way. Sometimes it's more concerning if you are happy based on a situation. Researchers tell us there's some near 35,000 emotions. And my 11-year-old is starting to experience most of those before lunch. Okay? 35,000, and they're all just there. Emotions aren't good or bad. They just are. So happiness, sadness, anger, nervousness, excitement, worry, fear, they're all kind of there. They're all part of the human experience. And based on what's happening around us, based on some of the things we're telling ourselves, we tell ourselves things that we would never tell anybody else. Usually the tape that we have playing is not something we want others to hear because it would be very, very unkind. Be kind to yourself, friends. Life is hard. Life does have ups and downs. And it isn't always that we're supposed to be happy for myth number 1. Myth number 2, if you're not happy, you're broken. If you're not happy, you're broken. Something must be wrong if I'm not happy. I must be broken. We have a family, forgive me, I don't know your last names, but a family that is leaving us that I've learned that has been a part of Thrive for a while, yes? And they're going to a new place. There's probably a family that over the past year, you've become a part of this community. You moved from out of state. There's transition involved there. And people might think like, you love the new job, you love this, isn't it great? And deep down, you're kind of like, I knew exactly where the bread was at my grocery store. I knew exactly where it was, and now I have to go to a different place. And I don't know why, but I walk in and I'm just annoyed. But it's hard to say that when someone says, hey, isn't it great? And you're like, really, I'm going to talk about I can't find the bread? Some of those little things are like 1,000 little rocks in our shoes. They're just little, but it hurts every day to walk on those. So sometimes in that transition is what I'm saying. That's a part, it shouldn't always, maybe it isn't always pleasant. It doesn't mean that we're broken. It means that we're just going through life. It means that you're a human being. Marketing messages are built on this. You'll be happy when you buy this, drink this, wear this, do this, drive this, live here. That's the core of marketing messages. But we know that happiness is fleeting. Happiness doesn't last, right? It's a fleeting kind of thing. Myth number 3. We must get rid of unpleasant feelings. We want to, again, avoid pain and seek pleasure. We must get rid of unpleasant feelings. Remember, all 35,000 of those, they're all just there. There's not good or bad. They just are. So trying to get rid of those often is what causes even anxiety, trying to escape those feelings. Sometimes the trauma and the traumatic incidents that we've experienced when we were younger doesn't get fully processed because it's kind of like we dip our toe in the water of trying to work through it to unfold some of that. We're like, no, I can't do it. And maybe it was some awful, awful things. I'm not saying you, quote, should be able to do that. But for some of us, it's the avoiding of these particular emotions and feelings is what causes this tension and this psychological pain. So we try to avoid it. Rather than avoiding it, what if we could surrender that to Jesus? Rather than running from it, what if we carry that and just say, Lord, this is yours. I'm going to give it to you. Carl Jung died about the 1960s. He was a Swiss psychologist. He said, what you resist persists. You ever done a Chinese finger trap? Where you put your fingers in and then you pull away and what happens? You're stuck even tighter. And so like the more you pull against it, the tighter it holds on, right? That same kind of thing. That's put to a visual of what Hume said. What we resist, what we avoid, oftentimes we get more and more tangled up in it. And so the solution or another option for us, family, is, as I was saying, to surrender this to Jesus. Instead of avoiding these particular things, we can surrender this. Next time we find ourselves resisting, we can surrender to the one who has complete control. And I want to validate some of the maybe experiences or the emotions you're feeling even right now, that some of this is kind of triggering. To say some of the things or some of the memories that you have I would want to run far and fast away from them as well. I'm with you in that, and that's a normal and typical thing. But maybe today is the first step for you to begin to hand that over to Jesus and say, this is yours, and I want you to bring redemption through it. It's not going to happen in a 35-minute talk about mental health. It's going to be a slow process, like a dimmer switch. It's going to slowly kind of come on, and that's okay. All right. I'm going to reset the attention span now. Thrive family. Let's open our Bibles and walk through Scripture together. Okay, there we go. Matthew chapter 11. You did it. Well done. Give yourselves a hand for walking through that. Yeah? Let's continue on. Good job. Matthew chapter 11. We're going to kind of tie this up a little bit. Matthew chapter 11. And I'm going to start in verse 28. This is going to be the Message translation. It's up here on the screen. If you have an app and you can easily go to the Message, do that. You can follow along with us. Or if you have a Bible in front of you, it's going to look a little bit different. Matthew 11 and verse 28. And if there's one thing I could say, because just a half hour is not too much time to cover all of mental health and all of what Jesus may or may not say, I can think he would say at least one thing. At least one thing. And here's what the words of Jesus, given to us by Eugene Peterson, what he would say to us. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Oftentimes, many of us, to deal with our own mental health, just stay busy, so we can avoid some of those feelings. We just stay busy. Jesus tells us this morning, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. I won't shame you. I won't bring condemnation on you. I won't look down on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You need to take a picture of these words to keep them throughout this week, to show them maybe to yourself or show them to others. I welcome you to do that, or to write that down. The words of Jesus for those of us, maybe even today, walking through some mental health challenges. What I think would be an umbrella over all of life's ups and downs, Jesus would say, kind of a twofold thing. Number one, come to me. I can take it. I can handle it. You can bring that to me. And also equally as much, I am with you. I am with you. The book of Matthew begins and ends with, and his name shall be Emmanuel, God with us. The writer of Matthew is trying to tell us something. God is with us. So there's one part at the same time, I am with you in this. Sometimes we just need somebody to be with us. We don't need the answer. We don't need the solution. We just want somebody to be with us. God is there with you through it. May that bring you hope. He is with us. At the same time, Jesus says, come to me. Come to me. Bring it to me. So there are three practical things that we can kind of leave this place to begin to help us, for those that, for us in the room or for some loved ones that are walking through some challenges in life or that are walking with pain. Maybe if you're having a conversation with someone, maybe they trust you. First thing I would say might be the hardest for us to do. We're going to practice just real quick too. First one is listen without judgment or problem solving. For us as adults, that first word is very, very hard to do. It's very, very hard to do. And to generalize, to greatly generalize, many of the men in this room are fixers. We hear a problem, we immediately want to fix it. And sometimes the loved ones, whether it be our spouses or somebody else that really cares about us, they don't want you to fix it. They just want you to listen. I know it sounds crazy. They just want you to listen. And to take it beneath the surface a little bit, sometimes we want to fix it so that we don't have to feel uncomfortable. So listening without judgment or problem solving. Real quick, we're going to practice this, okay? Partner up with the person next to you. Partner up to someone next to you. Jared, can we get some talking tunes kind of queued up? Just some regular, just kind of talking tunes, okay? So partner up. Someone's going to be a speaker and someone's going to be a listener, okay? Pick someone next to you. And what's going to happen is this. The speaker is going to tell the listener a problem they have in their life. Don't go into like, when I was 19 and then this. Don't go there. We don't have, that wouldn't be helpful. Okay? I'm talking like a little thing. Like yesterday I was getting the groceries and the bottom fell out of it. And then I had to, those kinds of problems. I want a little problem. Take 30 seconds. Speaker, talk to the listener. Hold on real quick. Can you kill the tunes real quick, Jared? Listener, here's your job. Listen up real quick. Listeners in the room. Partner B, listeners, your job is just to listen. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Listener, your job is just to listen. Speaker, take 30 seconds and tell your partner about a problem. Then we're going to switch it on your mark, get set, go.
It's gonna get better. There is no mistake I could ever make. It's gonna get better. Get your letter ready, so you don't for me. Not a past that you can't redeem. I know my identity. Failures won't define me. I don't have to fear.
Okay, switch. Speaker becomes listener, listener becomes speaker. Switch.
Where my help comes from. It's gonna get better. There is no mistake I could ever make. It's gonna get better. Let your letter rain, so you don't for me. It's gonna get better. There is no mistake I could ever make. It's gonna get better. Let your letter rain, so you don't for me. I've walked the valley, the shadow. I'm ready for all you have for me.
All right, and time. We can take the tunes down. Sorry to interrupt. Okay. I want to hear from a couple speakers. When you were a speaker, how was that for you? How was it for you when you were a speaker? Loved it. Loved it. Can you tell us a little bit more, sir? Why did you love it? Okay, I was like, oh man. So being able to speak, knowing that you weren't going to be interrupted or judged and just listened to felt pretty good. Anybody share that experience? Yes? Who else? Maybe a different take. Maybe a different take. Somebody else have a different thing. How was it for you as a speaker? Yes, sir. Self-disclosure? Okay. Let's see. What I'm hearing is fear of judgment. What I'm hearing is vulnerability. It can be hard to open up and to tell somebody, hey, this was a problem for me, because on the other side they might go like, really? There can be a fear there, right? Absolutely. I can see the wow factor. Yes. Yes. One more. As a speaker, how was it for you? Felt good just to get it off your chest, just to say it. Yes. Sometimes in that 50-minute hour of therapy, I do very little talking. And there's significant work that's done because it's the first time they're able to say things that maybe they haven't been able to admit to themselves. Yeah. Listeners, how was it as a listener? Let's hear. You wanted to hear more. Okay, so it's kind of like, tell me a little bit more about this. Yes. Okay, anybody else feel that way? Or similarly? Listeners, how was it for you? You wanted to offer problem solving or solutions. Yes, yes. For the helpers in the room, which can be anybody, we do want to do that because it can be tough seeing someone you care about kind of go through some kind of pain, right? Like, oh, yeah. Listeners, what else? How was it for you as a listener? It was difficult. Care to share more? Come up with solutions. Yeah, how do you fulfill it? Is this your partner next to you in the game? Okay. How was it for you when you were a speaker? It was hard. Okay, it was hard for what reasons? Okay. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay. All right. So it can be very difficult for all of us to listen because number one, we want to assign value or even assign judgment because that's what we do as humans. That's what we do as people. We have our own experiences, especially when we're talking with our kids and they want to tell us something and our immediate thing is like, well, when I went through that, here's what I did immediately. I would bet if we asked a majority of people in here, sometimes just being able to share was helpful for them. For someone that's walking through a mental health challenge, or maybe they're feeling a really way that they feel already ashamed about, already feel embarrassed about, it can be very hard to open up. So just listening, without saying things like, well, why would you do that? Or why'd you feel like that? Or how come you don't just... Advice might be helpful, but not in those particular moments. Just being there with them can be helpful. Number two, provide hope by telling them they aren't alone. It won't always be like this. It won't always be like this. What I can say for those of you that follow Jesus, that believe that he is coming back with the fullness of his kingdom, it won't always be like this. That's the hope for many of us. And sometimes in life, that can be the only hope that we have. But I want to remind us, the prayer of Jesus, the first request he has, may your kingdom come, is the way of Jesus saying, Father, fix this mess. Would you fix this brokenness down here? We're not alone, and it's not always going to be like this. You can reassure them. Maybe some of the things we respond to someone, or I want to say to you, that it won't always be like this, and you're not alone. Maybe I don't know how you feel. Maybe I can't relate to that, but I just want to say I'm here with you. And you're not alone. You don't have to walk through this alone. How can I help? Okay. And the last one is this, that we could spend significant time on, but we have limited time. Extend grace and avoid double standards. Here's the thing, particularly within the church. If someone tells you, I have chronic back pain, we're like, I'll pray for you. If someone says, I have depression, it's like, well, why? Why would you do that? That's just not helpful. Can you see that? That's just not helpful. When someone says, I have type whatever diabetes, and walking through this, we don't say like, okay, well, man, it's probably your own stuff. It's probably your own fault that you did this. But if we say, I have a generalized anxiety disorder and I'm on medication for it. It's a double standard. We need to begin treating mental health and mental illness the same way we do like chickenpox and measles and a broken arm. It's part of us going through life. And maybe you don't fully believe or understand where that's at, but particularly within the church, we assign kind of a spirituality to it. Well, if you prayed more, you wouldn't be so depressed. It's kind of cute, but it is really, really hurtful. If you would just pray a little bit more, you wouldn't be so anxious. Paul says, don't be anxious for anything, but everything by prayer and supplication. That's not helpful, Carl. That's not helpful. Be here with me. So can we extend grace? Last, I'll leave us with this. Isaiah 41:13 tells us, may this be the prayer for us as we continue. We're going to watch a song on the screen. We're going to have time for prayer afterwards that Andy can tell us more about. But I leave you with this prayer from the words of God, and I leave this to give to a loved one that you have. And God tells us, because I, your God, have a firm grip on you, and I'm not letting go. I'm telling you, don't panic. I'm right here to help you. I'm right here to help you. Would you pray with me? God, thank you for my friends Thank you for the courage and the vulnerability that they had to participate in even this kind of small exercise, but even to listen and to engage. For those that are in pain, for those that are hurting in this room, I pray that you bring your shalom, your healing, your peace into their lives. For those that are maybe fighting against some things that are happening in their life, would you give them the courage to surrender that to you, to stop resisting, to hand that over to you? God, would you give us the humility that we need to maybe look at this with new eyes? Because maybe before we walked in here, we thought one thing of mental health. And God, I pray that through these past 30 minutes that we would maybe have a fresh perspective or a more fuller understanding. If anything, that we would be able to show ourselves and others grace for those of us walking through mental health challenges. Whether solutions look like therapy or medication or some other type of treatment, whatever it may look like, God, would you whisper to them, you are not alone, that you are here with them, and that you're here to help them. And may you use the people around us to be able to do that. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.